In today's episode of Desert Lore, I'm going to the mountains of northern Utah to visit a famous archaeological site called Bone Cave. This site has been visited and used by humans for thousands of years. I'm going to go visit it and let you see it up close and personal, and we're going to learn some of the history of this amazing site and get a sense of what it was like for the people who once lived in this cave. Hello everybody, Ben Woodruff here, and on this episode of Desert Lore, I'm up in the mountains of northern Utah, here in the Wasatch Front as we call it locally. Now, I'm in some gorgeous limestone mountains. You can see some of the limestone behind me. Now, all of this limestone, millions of years ago, used to be the ocean. What happens is, when animals die and fall to the bottom of the ocean, it starts to build up, but especially microscopic life forms called diatoms. We still have them today, but that's mostly what this limestone is made out of, is those diatoms build up and compress, and then over time, the oceans got pushed up, and now on land you have mountains made out of what used to be seafloor. There's some really interesting properties about limestone. One of those is that when it's subjected to carbonic acid, it makes caves. So you see all these trees behind me. These trees, when the water seeps through them, it makes up some very mild carbonic acid, which is the same thing you have in soda. And so what happens is, when that seeps down in, it will dissolve out the calcite and make it'll form a cave, and it'll form cave formations. Now, this canyon has a rich heritage of caves, including Timpanogos Cave. Now, if you want to see, now you leave caves alone, right? You can go explore them. You don't touch, you don't break anything. But back in the early 1900s, a lot of specimens were taken. But they're now on display at the Hutchings Museum in Lehi. You can actually see some of these most truly amazing and remarkable cave formations from Timpanogos Cave up this canyon. But today I'm going to a different cave, an archaeological cave. Today I'm visiting the infamous Bone Cave. Dun dun dun. Dramatic name and a descriptively accurate name. So this cave has been visited by humans for thousands of years. There was even an archaeological dig that took place here. So the cave itself, it is a limestone cave, and it's perfect for habitation or for dwelling in for long-term or short-term. And you'll see the scorch marks when we get up there. You're going to see all kinds of things. There are some cave formations, but most of them have been damaged because cave formations, they're not alive, but they grow. And as they grow, they're growing chemically, chemosynthetically. Therefore, any alteration to that chemical process is going to alter the growth. And since for thousands of years, people have been staying in this cave, that soot coming up has altered the growth. But we will still see some small cave formations when we get up in there. Now, this cave, the archaeologists who excavated this cave, they found mostly bones of fish and bones of deer and bones of bighorn sheep, that people, as far as it's been written and as far as it can be interpreted, it seems that people would come up this canyon to hunt, and they would stay in this cave. And in doing so, it gave them a great place to hang out. It was shelter from the rain, shelter from the cold, a good place safe from predators. And it looked like it was a fishing camp, that they would go down below, catch fish, bring them up, dry them out, right, or eat them, whatever. And it was just a great place to stay for thousands of years. Now, the interesting thing is, and this is becoming increasingly common with modern archaeological sites, once all these bones and artifacts were excavated and documented, they were reburied in the ground in this cave. They're still there to this day. And again, it's mostly bones that were butchered by humans. It's mostly what is in this cave. But it's still fascinating to think, because people visit this cave today and have no idea that it has an archaeological history. So Bone Cave in the modern era. Well, for years it was kind of called Hippie Cave, because it's where the hippies would go to smoke marijuana and, have a good time communing with nature. And I've heard stories from old hippies telling me stories of going up there, and I've also heard from retired cops who would wait down below and wait for the hippies to come down so they could bust them. This also has been called Scout Cave, because for many years, many of the local Boy Scout groups, this is where they would do their winter camp. It's like, hey, let's go hike up to this cave in the snow. We'll build a fire. We'll be nice and warm, and it'll be a cool place to be. So there's a lot of history. Now, the largest demographic that goes to this cave, and again, it's not marked. You kind of have to know about it in order to know where it is. The largest demographic who uses it are rock climbers. And they put pitons in the rock, and sometimes they hang, and they have all their webbing and climbing webbing up. And, I used to do climbing, so I can respect that. But at the same time, I wish they wouldn't leave a lot of the excess hardware just hanging up there. Because again, for me, it's like this is an archaeological site, and people don't even know it. Anytime I'm up here and I see this and see other people there, I explain to them, I'm like, this is an archaeological site. So this is cool. It's a very steep little hike. It's not very long, but it's really steep. And if you've been watching my videos, I'm recovering from, I've been super sick for a month. So this is the first time I have my voice back, really. I've been just wheezing and still getting out into nature. But this is my first time kind of hitting the trail hard. So we're going to see some really cool things. And again, this is the legendary Bone Cave of the Wasatch Front. You can see limestone. Anywhere you have a crack in the rocks, there's an opportunity in this limestone for there to be caves. There's so many hidden caves up this canyon. So many have been discovered, and so many are yet undiscovered. We're going to go way up there. See, across the canyon, you can see those are sedimentary layers of what once was the ocean floor. And again, any one of these little cracks could have a limestone cave in it, just like what we're going to go up to. This is an edible plant here. This is called Oregon grape. It's young, so the grapes haven't come in yet. Occasionally they're sweet, but they're usually a little on the bitter side. Well, maybe not bitter, but tart. But this is an edible plant. It's got kind of that spiky edge to the leaf. They'll poke you if you're going around in sandals. But good edible plant, good one to know. I love being here in the Rocky Mountains. The Wasatch Mountains are part of the Rockies, and it's just so beautiful being surrounded by these fir trees, and you get a feeling of the Wild West still sort of being here. I'm just a few minutes from civilization, and yet I've seen hardly any people on the road, and now that I'm off the road, I can't see any sign of civilization. It's really nice. And that's one of the nice things about these deep forests. And that's why it's important we preserve them. I think people need to be able to escape from kind of the dreariness of modern society. There's something to be said for the tenacity of life. Look at this little fir tree here, and it's growing like literally right out of a crack in the rock. So some little seedling just started right in there. And, was able to grow out from that. Eventually that root is going to get so big that it's going to split that rock open, which, then will destabilize up above and keep bringing the mountain down bit by bit. But it's amazing to see, you have, moss and a fir tree growing directly in cracks in the rock. Life always finds a way. There's a chickadee singing away in here. I don't know if I can try to get it on film there. Hopefully you can hear it. There it is. Beautiful little birds. But you know, it's only April, so you can see, the maples are still just coming in, but already another edible plant here. This right here, this is choke cherry, and you can see some of these cherries starting to come in. This plant is really good for making arrows and making bows if it's a sinew back bow, and the cherries are good to eat when they're ripe. So that's two edible plants right here, choke cherry and more of that Oregon grape. So again, in addition to coming up here to hunt deer and elk, bighorn sheep, and getting the fish down in the river below, I'm sure ancient native peoples were also harvesting the tons of edible plants that were growing in this area. Now this spot right here can be a little sketchy. This log you see right down here used to go right across here. It's a long chute straight down, so you gotta be kind of careful crossing through here. It's a little harder doing it with the gimbal, but it's more fun if you're along for the journey. But again, you can see the chute just goes straight down there. See across the way there, that looks like a cavern. But again, when you zoom out, that'd be a little sketchy to get into. You'd probably want to use ropes and get down from above. These are cliffs. We're almost to the cave, but these are the cliffs just right up above it. Again, this is all limestone. This is all ocean floor millions of years ago. And if you look up really close, you can usually find some of the fossils inside. Well, here's the cave right here. It's got a pretty commanding view. We'll get some drone shots, we're gonna do some LiDAR, but we're going to go on in here. See, somebody's had a little fire here. And we're gonna go back inside there. I'm gonna try to get a fisheye lens shot here. And again, I'm gonna get some LiDAR shots outside and inside, so you can get a feel what it's like actually in this place. So I'm kind of in the alcove now. I'm gonna try to get some better shots of all this. It's just hard to kind of do this cave justice. I got a LiDAR scan And I'm gonna go ahead and show that what that's like. One of the problems is I broke rule number 1 of ever visiting a cave. I forgot my flashlight. But the cave doesn't go back very far. But take a look at this. Take a look at this. This right here, you see all this kind of formation here, these concretions. These are cave popcorn. So what'll happen is sometimes if you'll have a crack in between the rocks, like right here, it'll fall. You can even see it did. You can even see some of this right here. But this cave has been visited for thousands of years, and it's just absolutely blackened. If you look, you can see the soot all right here. And up here you can see a piton right in the middle there for climbing. Again, the climbers like to use this spot, but they kept it pretty clean. Sometimes they're pretty messy. But again, here's a more normal look to what the limestone should look like. And again, you can see how blackened it is. Because again, it's a perfect spot to camp. You have this big old huge rock here that'll block some of the wind coming in. You can build a fire out here, have a nice rock you can sit on. And then when the night comes, you can go much further back into this cave. Looks like the light is doing pretty good here. I wish I had brought my flashlight. But if you can kind of see right in the center, right here, there's a crack. And that is where the water is seeping through. The water dissolved out this cave. And you can see this goes back, maybe another 15, 20 feet. I wonder, I'm gonna try to turn my flashlight on my phone and just see if that'll do any good. It doesn't help too much. But you can see a little more up here. And again, you can see how blackened it is just from the fires that were in here. Let's take a look back a little further. And again, buried underneath here is an entire archaeological survey that's been reburied here. Now take a look at this. Let's see if I can get the light to focus on this. Okay, right in front here, you can see the water dripping. It's right here. Let's see if we can see that. You see water dripping out. That is a stalactite. It is a little stalactite, and you can see they're trying to form all over here. You can see these little drops. But again, over the eons, here's another one right. This might be the same one. But again, you can see that water droplet. Here's a chunkier one right here. And again, these are trying to form, but people coming in here would break them. There's another one right here. But also, they're growing. You can see it dripping. They are still growing, but again, all this soot, all this blackened soot from the fires has chemically altered this cave. It's kind of cool looking out from there. There's another shot. Cave formations are delicate. They're very, very delicate, and they take a long time to grow. But again, you can see there's sort of this kind of a natural alcove. So this opens up in here. You get some nice flowstone down there. So again, this is, would have been if people hadn't, come on, focus. It's so dark in here, it doesn't want to focus. People staying in this cave, you know, have permanently altered it. But again, this provided a wonderful and safe spot. So when you're ever camping in a cave, if you're going to build a fire, you can run into some problems. You can smoke the place out. So the nice thing about this is there's a natural chokehold right here where the cave gets narrow and then it opens back up. So the idea is you make a fire out here and you can trap in the heat without smoking the cave itself. So it's pretty amazing that this is a natural place that just perfectly conforms to the needs of humans. It's not too open. And again, having this rock to sit on, prepare food on, and this rock to kind of block some of the wind, such an ideal place. This little piece here shows just how sooty it got here. You can see that kind of shiny black. But again, that's kind of the chokehold right there. I'm gonna move side to side so you can kind of see. So again, the cave is hugely open. You have 20 people just hanging out here in this opening. And then it goes to a pretty narrow spot right here. And then after that, it opens up, which is a very safe place to stay. Looks like, got some leaves up here. Those might have blown in, but that could be a pack rat den, but it doesn't look like one. That's kind of an unusual midden if it is. Might be from a different rodent species. But amazing to think people lived in here, or at least camped in here. There's a little bit of graffiti over there. Looks like someone put, "I love you." But people may have done that anciently too. I'm so sorry I didn't bring my flashlight. I am so sorry. It's really cool to think that right here, that this rock right here, this was used probably to prep food. Like, there were probably animals that were butchered right here. Fish, elk, bighorn sheep. Now it's all washed off. But you look how polished and burnished this is from thousands of years of people sitting on this rock. They've just polished what is otherwise really rough, coarse sandstone. And it's just all totally polished now from generations and generations of people. I'm going to do a video on how to make lamps out of tallow, out of meat, beef fat. And but you can imagine somebody putting a candle or a little lamp right here in these little alcoves, just as a way to light the path. Again, there's all these nice little spots here. They're so perfect. It's a very unique spot in the canyon. There's a lot of caves, but this one just seems to lend itself so perfectly to human habitation. Visiting here at Bone Cave is kind of a surreal thing, because today, this is a recreational canyon. People come up here to camp and fish and go boating and just enjoy nature. People come to this cave now to do some rock climbing on it. And it's strange to think that people lived here and that their lives depended on here, that this offered protection from the cold. And it's almost like feeling kind of the ghost of the past here, knowing that you're treading in the same space, but a different time. I always love visiting this cave. Always seems kind of welcoming, but again, it's fascinating to think, this whole area that just a few thousand years ago, even a few hundred years ago, people were using this site regularly and seasonally as a way to camp and stay and get food, both the plants and the animals in this area. Well, I want to get some drone shots of this area, and hopefully, again, I took some LiDAR scans, not super satisfied with how they turned out, but I want to get some drone shots and give you a better sense of what this whole area looks like. I'll probably be in the shots, but again, I want you to get a feel of what it's like to actually be here. Well, I hope you enjoyed coming along with me today and visiting Bone Cave. Again, this is kind of a local site that not a lot of people know about. Again, always treat it with respect. Again, there's climbers here doing their thing nowadays. That's okay, but again, just have respect for the archaeological site as well as the mountain itself. Again, it's really important that we preserve our history so that people in the future can learn and experience these things as well. But I hope you enjoyed coming along. Hope you enjoyed seeing these. I'm trying the best I can to make it so that people can get to these places visually. I'm bringing a huge backpack filled with all different kinds of cameras with fisheye lenses and LiDAR and different things. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to keep evolving that. But my goal is to not just document kind of these little trips, but to give you a feel as if you were actually there. And again, that's taken getting a whole lot of extra lenses and different kinds of things to try to give you a feel, because I don't know if you're not used to optics, then you know a normal camera lens just kind of funnels it in. You don't get a feel of what it's like to actually be there. That's what I'm going for with the drones and the LiDAR and all this stuff. So hope you enjoy it, hope you learn something new, and I hope it inspires you to get out and check out some of these cool places. But always remember, life is an adventure. So never stop learning and never stop exploring. We'll see you next time.